topic about integrated 2D takeoff, especially in a team environment. One thing to be aware of is that what I'm demonstrating is really for the project lead or the lead estimator that's developing out the estimate. And then once they have established the parameters, then everyone else can join the project and contribute as well. So a couple of things just kind of housekeeping wise is good standard operating procedures is when the project lead kicks off the estimate. Definitely want to make sure that you turn on your system as a sticky WBS property, and you'll see why in a little bit. You could also have area breakout. There's a couple of different flavors of what folks might use as a way to break out their estimate into logical buckets. I'll use system here, and I always recommend using a numeric code in front of an alphabetical code because that is the way it sorts is numeric before alphabet. Let's just say 01 office, say 02 tower, 03 site, and so on. When I select OK and OK, all of the teammates can then subscribe and use that system as well. The other piece of housekeeping, I'll touch on it just briefly, would be good standard operating procedures would be to fill out your project view data. Mine is empty at the moment. The assumption would be folks would typically kick off from a template and have this all filled out. But as an example, let's just go ahead and say that I have, say, 100,000 square feet of building, and that will help us with the cost per square foot. One other piece to be aware of is that under Home and then under Preferences, always encourage users to consider, and this is a personal preference based upon your login, to consider turning on the highlight quantity rules for formula turned on if it's driven by a formula either from the project view or you just put an inline formula and driven by Takeoff. This one's really valuable because then we know when Takeoff has been applied to a specific line item's quantity. As I navigate to the Takeoff tab, you'll notice that the ribbon does not populate with any commands until we know it's either 2D takeoff or 3D takeoff. I will go ahead and load some 2D takeoff. And as I load this, what you would typically want to do is find a drawing. So I'm going to go ahead to my T drive and into my projects folder and go down into the drawings and identify the drawing set that I want to add to my estimate. Once it's been added, if it has bookmarks, certainly we can go ahead and jump to any page that a bookmark is on. The other thing to be aware of, I have hidden the Takeoff palette to consider that the estimate view is a more powerful way to consider your takeoff conditions. You'll see that a little bit later as well. Now that I have my drawing set embedded, and this again is for the project lead, one thing to consider is then underneath the load in the briefcase section is to consider managing the PDFs. And if you are in the hosted environment, you may want to consider embedding the PDF in so that it is a quicker load after the first time, because I went up to the T drive, my mapped drive, to pull it, and so in case the folder changes names or locations, if it's embedded, it will always stay with your estimate. Go ahead and close that, and of course, I'll save.